Presidential and radical Reconstruction after the U.S. Civil War. The time period after the Civil War when the United States was being rebuilt is called the Reconstruction. It was a time of great pain in the South. Although the war had ended, Reconstruction was still a battle. This important struggle was waged by Northerners who wanted to punish the South and Southerners who desperately wanted to preserve their way of life. Slavery died with the end of the Civil War. 3 new additions to the Constitution gave Black Americans more rights. The 13th Amendment banned slavery. The 14th Amendment said all male citizens have equal protection under the law no matter what race. The 15th Amendment gave Black men the right to vote. Southern states had to accept these laws to become part of the U.S. again, but making sure that these laws were followed by the South was very difficult. Many in the North were angry that leaders who had fought for the South returned to power, and they were alarmed that Southern states added laws that were unfair to Black people. Recently freed Blacks did not feel the post-war South was very different from the pre-war South. Presidential Reconstruction. In 1864, Abraham Lincoln had chosen Andrew Johnson from Tennessee as his presidential candidate. Lincoln was looking for support from Southern voters, and Johnson was from the South. He hoped that by selecting Johnson, he would appeal to the Southerners who had never wanted to split up the country. The views of the vice president rarely matter too much, unless something happens to the president. Following Lincoln's assassination in 1865, Johnson's views now mattered a great deal. This period of presidential reconstruction, when Johnson's views affected laws in the South, lasted from 1865 to 1867. Johnson believed that Southern states should decide what was best for them. He also felt that Black people were unable to manage their own lives, and also did not deserve to vote. In 1866, he told a group of Black people visiting the White House that they should move to another country. Johnson was very forgiving of Southern white leaders. Very few Southern leaders were taken to court or punished for what they did during the Civil War. During Reconstruction, Black Americans still suffered and were beaten regularly. Whites controlled Black people freed from slavery with harsh laws that became known as the Black Codes. In some states, freed Black people needed to prove that they had a job or else they would be required to work on plantations. In South Carolina, Black people had to pay a special tax if they were not farmers or servants. They were not allowed to hunt or fish in some areas. Blacks were not allowed to own guns. Black people even had to pay a tax if they owned dogs. Black people were not allowed in parks, schools, and other public places. The Freedmen's Bureau had been set up by the government to help Black shifts from slavery to freedom and find jobs, but whites in the South were against it, so most recently freed Black people were stuck working on plantations. Andrew Johnson's laws were initially supported by most Northerners. People disagreed on what rights free Black people should get, though. One group of lawmakers, called the Radical Republicans, wanted people who had been enslaved to have equal rights to everyone. Radical Reconstruction. The Radical Republicans were members of Congress. They believed Black people should have the same rights as whites. They also felt Southern leaders should be punished for what they did in the Civil War. A great battle was about to unfold. The Radicals felt laws designed to protect Black people were necessary. In 1866, Congress began work on a civil rights bill. President Johnson was against it. He stopped the civil rights bill using his veto. He did not believe Black people should have the same rights of property and person as whites. Other Republicans were disgusted by Johnson's racism. They joined with the Radicals to get enough votes to make sure Johnson could not stop the Civil Rights Act. This was the first time in history the president's veto of a major law was overturned. In 1867, Congress approved the 14th Amendment. It said, states cannot limit anyone's freedom. Republicans were encouraged by the work of the 14th Amendment and victories in the 1866 elections. Then they passed a law called the Reconstruction Act of 1867. This law said that people who fought in the South in the Civil War could not vote or run to become a politician. Now Southerners who supported the North during the war became the new leaders in the South. Southern states rewrote their laws to agree with the 14th Amendment and give Black people more rights. Congress seemed fully in control, but one thing stood in the way. President Johnson, radical leaders used a part of the Constitution to get rid of him: impeachment. In the spring of 1868, Andrew Johnson became the first president to be impeached. However, he was not removed from the White House. He finished his term as president but didn't run for a second term. All that last part means is that the House impeached him, not the Senate. All right, you guys, go and answer your questions. Your page looks like this. It's called Presidential and Radical Reconstruction After the Civil War.